All right, everybody. It is 2 p.m. sharp, so you know what that means? It's time for 2 p.m. Sales Espresso Shot. Now, I'd like to point out Packers and Bulldogs. That's right. Got both represented. So, just want to be sure everyone notices that and goes to the proper team come Saturday and Sunday. All right. Also, today is obviously September 11th. If you are older than about 30 or so, you can probably tell me exactly where you were and what you were doing on this day in 2001. Let's just not forget about that. All right. So, on to less important but yet still important things. We're going to talk today about cross-selling without sounding salesy. Okay. If you are new to the 2 p.m. Sales Espresso Shot, welcome. What we do here is every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, we dive into one topic to give you one little tidbit of sales knowledge that'll help better your day, grow your business, do something. And it's always going to be 15 minutes or less. All right. So, yes, I am that guy, Skip Wilcox. And if you are not connected with me, please scan that QR code and connect with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever the case is, but at least scan it so we are now connected. All right, let's dive right in because it's already 2:02. Time's a wasting. All right. The first thing we have got to remember when cross-selling, and I know I said in the advertisement for this one that this is geared mostly to my friends in the financial institution space, but um, hold on a second. I think I may have a technical difficulty. Let's just check that real quick. Yeah, it looks like my screen's not changing slides. All right, well, I'll tell you what. Let's fix that right quick. Hold on one second and we'll get it done. Appreciate the text telling me, "Hey, your slide's not advancing." All right, I think we're good now. All right, so first and foremost, the thing that we have got to remember is the mindset is key. All right. Mindset is key. And that is the single most important thing when dealing with cross selling. If you're in a financial institution or other, financial industry, insurance, whatever the case is, the mindset's key. We've got to keep in mind that we are serving our clients. We are doing something to hopefully better their lives, their situation above and beyond selling. Now, I can make the argument that proper selling is doing that anyway. But for the purposes of this conversation, service versus selling, guys. All right. It's just that simple. They don't want to be pushed to buy anything. They want to have solutions to their problems. Problems, frankly, they may not even realize they have. If they don't know that they could potentially have an issue, then they're not going to try and solve it, right? And that's part of our jobs as sales professionals to show them, hey, look, I know you think that this may be okay, but here are some other options that are going to put you into a better situation. And this is really, really important because I think most of us who work for banks, credit unions, whatever, we all know like the Wells Fargo story from a few years ago with their big, huge cross-selling commission push, and it was just awful. It hurt consumers. There were incentives in place to make fake accounts and so on, so on, so on. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Google it. It's a very unfortunate story, but uh, they don't want to be pushed to buy. They want solutions. Okay. We can focus on solving problems rather than just pushing our products. That's where the difference comes. And I know this is not a novel concept, right? We all know this, but a lot of times we kind of forget some of these basics when we're going through our day. And us as mortgage professionals, we are ideally placed to be able to help our customers more fully and grow our institution's business as a whole. All right. Because if you can do this and do it properly, you're going to build loyalty and long-term trust with your clients because they're going to be like, "Hey, you know what? Dave saved me some money on this, on my car payment, on my boat payment. They got me a little extra yield on my CDs, whatever the case is. All this stuff adds up. All right. So we got to understand the customer needs first, right? That is the first and foremost thing. We've got to do that. And the only way to do it is to ask thoughtful, open-ended questions. Now, if you've been on any of my trainings, whether it's one of these or a full day, half day workshop, you know that asking open-ended questions is one of the recurring themes in my stuff, right? And that's because those are what uncover the real problems, goals, pain points, whatever, the case is. We want to avoid yes and no questions wherever possible because that doesn't do anything for us. We want them to open up to us, all right? We've got to start actively listening. We got to listen for clues in conversations. Somebody mentions that they have children. Now, of course, we're mortgage professionals. We've got their application from us. We know if they have dependents or not, but there can be other things. They may mention a daughter's wedding or something else that's coming up that opens up the door for additional conversation. And we've got to be curious about this. Now, uh, for those of you on this call that may have been through my Outpace training, you're familiar with my use of empathy and cultivating curiosity to avoid assumptions. All right. If you haven't been, shoot me a message. I'd love to show this stuff to you. So, but we've got to use empathy and curiosity to avoid just assuming that they're just here to get the one service that we can provide, be it a mortgage or whatever. All right. So, value driven cross selling strategies. We know it's important. We know kind of how we've got to do it. So, we've really got to say, okay, what are the benefits? And we've got to align those solutions with the client's stage or situation that they are or have in life, right? Now, we're all specialists. We do mortgages. Some of us that may be on the call may be part of a community bank or smaller credit union that do wear multiple hats, and that's great. This is a frankly, it's an easier conversation to have, but we have to be sure that we know and are familiar with the other offerings that our institutions have, right? Because if we aren't, how are we possibly going to know? How are we going to know? And we've got to be sure that we lead with benefits. If we expect our customer, who we have worked hard to get the trust of, to go talk to Mrs. Smith over in customer service about a 529 plan for their child's education, we have got to be sure that we can spell out and essentially tease a little bit of the possible benefits. Okay. And that's not easy to do. We've got to try to do it. You have to make a concerted, intentional effort. And example for, I just mentioned this. Say, hey, I noticed that you've got kids. What types of things are you doing for their education? And that opens up a big conversation. One of those pieces very well may be it's like, well, we don't have a whole lot to say. We don't really know what our options are. This could open up if your institution has a relationship with a financial advisor, this could open that up. Or something as simple as like a 529 program if your state offers that type of thing, for education savings. There's just all kinds of things that can come out if you just ask the question. Say, okay, look, what types of things are they doing? Are you doing for their education? If the answer is not much, say, okay, well, if you're not familiar with it, a 529 plan can do A, B, C. I think it's worth a 10-minute conversation with so and so over in customer service just to see. If not, hey, that's great. At least you learned about something else that's out there. Or it could be something that actually might make an impact for you. It's 10 minutes, right? And so that alone will just, I mean, it makes an exponential difference. You know, on the flip side of that, let's say you are trying to receive some cross-selling benefits from your team. Somebody is most likely saying that, hey, that they're going to buy a home soon, or hey, I noticed that on your application for a checking account or whatever the case is, that you rent. How long you been renting? Have you ever thought about buying a home? Yeah, I'm just not really sure what I can afford or what the process looks like, whatever the case is. Oh, okay. Well, I've got Dave over here that can pre-qualify you for a mortgage in probably less than 20 minutes. And if you don't qualify for one, he can go over the steps that you need to take in order to ready for one. Um, you know, it shouldn't take long at all. The answer to that is almost always going to be yes. Okay. We have to actually pay attention, get our brains out of cruise control, and start asking the questions. So, aligning your solutions to life stages, this is kind of goes back to what I said just a minute ago. If they're students, families, retirees, if they're self-employed, whatever the case is, obviously you're not going to bring up something that you've got available for a self-employed business owner if they're still in college, right? I mean, come on. So use some common sense, connect these dots, and be sure that you know what your institution's offerings are, so that you can connect them with another specialist, right? That that one's kind of funny. It should go without saying, but a lot of times people are talking about different things that they've got available that do not apply remotely to the person's life situation. So just be cognizant of that. All right. And as I've said before, you really want to leverage that trust that you've already earned in the relationship that they have with you. And I have this in here multiple times because if you don't have that level of trust yet, I would contend you may not have as good of a relationship with your customer as you think you do. So that's why I've got that in here several times. All right. Language and communication tips. Real quick, guys, avoid your jargon. We have more acronyms than we know what to do with. We probably have as many as the medical profession, and we want to avoid using all those types of acronyms. I mean, a CD, for example. Well, you know what? You say that, we all know certificate of deposit. They might be thinking compact disc from 1992 in the Walkman. We don't know. Don't assume. So avoid jargon. And also, I think most of y'all on here are probably pretty good at this, but avoid those sales cliches. All right. We don't want to say something that is going to put up barriers and going to make them defensive and have their brain have that reflex response of, oh God, I'm being sold something. I'm going to shut down. All right. If you've gotten to the point where you can have this conversation, you probably haven't done those, but it bears reminding that you need to avoid it. Okay. Um, Use consultative phrases. Now, I've got have you considered, would it help if? Now, again, if y'all have been on any of my trainings, you know I like more assertive language, but for this, if this gives you a way to propose options, use whatever language helps, y'all. Whatever starts the conversation is more important than getting the conversation perfect. Okay. And balance your enthusiasm with authenticity to keep your conversations natural. For God's sake, be yourself. Be yourself. Don't follow scripts. If your bank or credit union gives you a script, don't follow it. And you know what? And you can tell your boss or supervisor that I said so. Okay. Don't follow it, man. Just look at what you got in front of you and change it to your words so that it sounds natural and real because people are going to pick up on that. Scripts just don't work in sales. They don't. You need to have a framework instead. So, practical tools for cross-selling. I got 2 minutes. Let's go. Use your CRM to personalize your conversations. This goes without saying. This is a selling 101 thing. Be sure that you actually take note of the person in front of you. All right. Timing is key. You want to introduce cross-selling conversations when appropriate. If you are going through an application, you have to be talking about someone's assets. Maybe that's a good time to talk about a potential cross-sell of assets. Or you're talking about someone's liabilities. Maybe it's a good time to say, hey, you know what? You need to refinance that four-wheeler or something like that. Timing is key. While it's top of mind, that's when you strike with it. Okay. And use micro touch points. Don't overemphasize and over exaggerate by having one big sit down about a particular cross selling opportunity because they are, after all, there to see you for a separate, distinct purpose. Okay, so we want to be sure that we don't make this a bigger deal than it really needs to be to them because that just sets you up for all kinds of disaster. All right, so action steps. Remember. This is about helping people achieve financial wellness, helping them. This is not about selling just to close a deal. Okay. And don't try and do this all at once. Don't sit there, take your application, which by the way is a cross-selling gold mine, and start trying to make notations of where you can do this, that, and the other. Don't do that. All right, just try and say, hey, look, I'm going to review a credit report, or I'm going to focus on assets, or I'm going to say, hey, look, I've got this part, this or this. Open up and think about what you're doing. The biggest thing that you can do is take your brain out of cruise control and start asking open-ended questions and help the customer connect dots. All right. Take advantage of any resources that you've got, any type of follow-up that you can do, or that the relevant department can send. Um, that's also going to help kind of reinforce what you're doing and not put all the responsibility on you too. Okay, you're essentially going to be a service broker for these folks with the other offerings that they have at your institution. Okay. All right, guys. Oh no, I'm 1 minute over. Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all coming on. Next week we're going to have a new one again, 15 minutes or less. Again, if I'm not connected with you, please scan the QR code, and I'll see y'all next week.